The access to the court is how we enforce the First Amendment here in the United States.
The courts are one way to seek redress and a cause of action for a First Amendment violation. Accountability is more than just that.
You think it's okay to obstruct justice. You've come here for a hearing that was about whether or not the First Amendment should have a global reach. And instead of being here to testify for that, when the chairman asks you a question, you go dumb. Shame on the ACLU. You didn't protect the First Amendment under the last 4 years, and now you come here with the hypocrisy of all time.
Gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you. I'm sure Mr. Raskin will cut me off exactly at 0, unlike his own people that go well beyond that. Mr. Mayell, would you agree that one of the tenets of the First Amendment, the most important part in the ACLU in its history, is the ability to seek the enforcement of it in court? Without the support of the court, the First Amendment is moot as far as its enforcement. Is that correct?
I mean, I think that accountability is a constellation of things.
No. Look, I know I'm a Republican and I know you want to be evasive. The ACLU has sued, probably in federal court, more than any other entity to enforce the First Amendment in the past, including some very important things, and other constitutional. So, the access to the court is how we enforce the First Amendment here in the United States, how we enforce what is right and wrong. Is that correct?
I don't want to, I'm going to answer the question, but what I want to say is that the courts are one way to seek redress and a cause of action for a First Amendment violation. Accountability is more than just that.
Okay.
Accountability
is I hear your answer.
A number of different
I hear
things.
your answer, but you
so
said
it is not just
I hear your answer, but I heard nothing when we had this tirade about a man seeking to be made whole when he felt he was sued inappropriately because $125 million from the gentleman from Georgia isn't much money. I heard you, and I hear you loud and clear. You think it's okay to obstruct justice here in America, to in fact use the First Amendment as a sword instead of a scalpel. And I'll give you an example. You said that people were being forced to flee the country of their choosing, flee the country they call home. Were you talking about people who came here illegally? Yes. Were you talking about people who came here illegally and then may have gotten temporary protective status? Yes. So look, it's my time, and if I ask you a question, I'll ask you a question. The fact is, you've come here for a hearing that was about whether or not the First Amendment should have a global reach, whether somebody who says something in America who's a citizen of another country can be arrested in a third country because they don't like what was said in America. And instead of being here to testify for that, when the chairman asks you a question, you go dumb. Shame on the ACLU. You didn't protect the First Amendment under the last 4 years, and now you come here with the hypocrisy of all time to pretend that the ACLU hasn't become an arm of the Democratic Party. It hasn't become...
No administration has gotten a free pass from the ACLU.
Yeah, well, the last one got a hell of a free pass. So, I'm going to ask the other folks a question, which is a question. I'm the vice chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, and although this is Judiciary Committee, clearly the question of whether we can work together to enforce it is important. For each of the witnesses who came here to answer questions related to the hearing, if the United States uses its global reach, power, and influence to enforce that when the First Amendment occurs, when speech occurs in the United States, that you are at that point an American person for purposes of protection under the First Amendment, if we begin a process of retribution, censoring, or sanctioning, whatever it takes, even against our best friends in Europe, in order to say, if you say it in the United States, you cannot be prosecuted in another country. Is that something you believe that we should do as a tenet of global democracy that America was founded on? We weren't founded just on the question of rights here. We were founded on spreading democracy and freedom around the country. So yes or no to the greatest extent possible. Should we, in fact, begin a process of doing what I know the chairman wants to do and I want to do, which is making you a protected person if you say it in America, if you publish it in America, that we will not allow you to be prosecuted for that speech in another country? I'll go start with the doctor.
Yes, I have to say that I'm very happy for your support to freedom of speech. And I noticed that you all have great respect to the First Amendment. And I'm happy for the support that you give.
Mr. Chairman, briefly, could the others
Mr. Price
answer?
and Mr. Linehan. Or
Yes,
whatever.
that would be I think that's a great idea. If they won't, like, we need freedom of speech. It's that important. And these are, I know there's been efforts to dismiss the subject of the trans issue, but it's a very important issue. A lot of children have been hurt. Thousands of children have been hurt. They've received double mastectomies.
Mr. Price, briefly.
Yep.
Yes, sir. I think it's a very wise idea, and there are plenty of options, I think, that we could discuss.
Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentlelady from Washington is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a 5-alarm fire here on the First Amendment rights in the United States, and even your Republican witnesses have said that this is the model. You wish you had it, right, Mr. Price? And yet, this committee is spending no time at all on actually looking at that. It's the first time Republicans have wanted to import foreigners to talk about any issue, but let me just be clear that right now we have a situation where Trump's ICE and Border Patrol agents are routinely using excessive force, killing 2 U.S. citizens, using chemical weapons, physically assaulting and threatening people, directly attacking people who are exercising their free speech rights hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And with respect to Mr. Price and Mr. Issa, who seem to suggest that the courts can resolve everything, there is no court order that can bring back people from the dead after they've been shot. So this is a serious issue, and I don't want you all to be used to further some false thing about how we have to fight for free speech rights of Americans in your countries when we are not addressing the First Amendment right here at home. And you don't have to just take my word for it. I have a video to play. Please play the video.
Stop kneeing him in the face! That's his face! Stop it! Open it! Last warning!
Those are just a small fraction of what is happening in the United States of America. So be very careful when you come here at the request of my Republican colleagues to testify on the abuses of First Amendment rights. When we have this happening right here in this country, do not let yourselves be used. Mr. Mayell, as Executive Director of the ACLU of Minnesota, you and your colleagues have been on the front lines of Trump's assault on Americans' free speech rights. And the video we watched is so horrific, and yet there are so many more terrifying tactics that immigration agents and Border Patrol agents are using against people of all statuses. In fact, Tom Homan seems to suggest that their intimidation and attack tactics on First Amendment protections will continue, saying, quote, that they will not draw down on personnel providing security and responding to hostile incidents until we see a change in what is happening. And let's be clear that while he is admitting that Kristi Noem has failed in this whole effort when he says he'll draw down 700 agents in Minnesota. That's still 2,300 agents that are left in Minnesota, 4 times the size of the local Minneapolis police force. So can you just describe how agents are surveilling people and the fear that even U.S. citizens face in being threatened at their homes?
Yes, thank you for the question. I'll tell you about Sue Tincher, who's our lead client in our lawsuit, Tincher versus Nome. She has been living in Minnesota for 30 years. She heard about an ICE activity in her neighborhood. She went out to the site and a distance from an ICE agent, simply asked the question, "Are you ICE?" She was then tackled in the snow, arrested, taken to the Whipple Detention Center, and at that site she had parts of her clothes cut off, she had her purse cut off, and she had her wedding band cut off. This is not normal, what is happening. And I just want to make that very clear, that this is not normal law enforcement.
And there are cells in Whipple specifically for U.S. citizens who are being held, most of whom are then being released without charges. I have a series of very quick questions. Are you aware of any city in Belgium where 3,000 agents have been deployed and those agents are dragging people out of their cars?
Not that I'm aware of.
Any city in the UK where federal agents point firearms at civilians exercising their legal right to observe them? Quickly, Mr. Mayell.
In recent years, not that I'm aware of.
Are you aware of any city in the EU where a federal agent has shot and killed a citizen and the leaders of that country justified the killing with no credible evidence before any investigation had occurred?
In recent moments, not that I'm aware of.
Thank you, Mr. Mayell. I think the situation is clear. This committee should focus on our First Amendment violations right here at home instead of pulling people in from other countries. That's where we have to protect our democracy and our rights, right here at home. I yield back.